Hi everyone, my name is Florence and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the fernleaf cactus, and this is an absolute favourite of mine in my collection. I find it really easy to care for, and I've lumped all of the information that I've learned and read online into this video so you have an idea of how to care for this plant and its origin. So before I get on, this was actually formerly an epiphyllum and has now been reclassed, and I'm going to read out what I've written down so that I don't get it wrong, and it will only be 30 seconds worth of information, so if you just hold with me, not looking at the camera. So this is now a Selenicereus Chrysocardium, and I'm going to break that word down for you so that you have a clue what it means and understand how they got to that name. So Selen is the Greek moon goddess, Cereus is candle and lantern, Chryso is golden, and Cardium is heart. And that will all make sense when I talk about the flowers and show you what they look like. Okay, so again, I'm probably going to butcher this, but this is found in the Mexican region of jungles in Chiapas. I'll put that on the screen as well, just in case I said it wrong. But obviously it's found in jungles and is an epiphyte, so it grows probably on trees and like nooks and crannies everywhere. So that'll give you an idea of what care to give it and what it will need to thrive. So these aren't massively common houseplants at the moment, but I don't understand why, because they are such easy care and easy to propagate, all of which I'll cover in this video. Onto the foliage. These have no spikes or spines, so it's a really great houseplant. And depending on what care you're giving it and what light it's receiving, they can range from a light green to a dark green foliage. Obviously they've got this zigzag effect, which is common in epiphyllum type plants, and they can grow up to 6 foot long. Now, I'm always really skeptical when people say how big things can grow, because obviously that's in the wild, and you know, it never gets to that condition in our home. But excitingly enough, my mum has a plant exactly the same as this. I think it was actually a cutting off this plant, and she's 5'9" for reference. She has hers in a terracotta sky planter, and I have mine just in a bog standard plastic hanging planter. So that'll give you an idea of what they can grow to in your home. As far as flowering, these are known to be absolutely beautiful when they flower. The flowers don't last that long, and they are incredibly difficult to get to flower in your home. This picture on the screen shows how incredible these flowers are. So as you can see, there's an incredible white moon-like flower, and they have gold stamen filaments, which give it that candle name. And yeah, I just honestly can't believe how beautiful these are. Now, if you want to get this to flower in your home, you'll have to fit your plant in a cool, dry cupboard for 12 hours over 4 to 6 weeks. So that means 12 hours a day over 4 to 6 weeks, and then you should start to see flowers on your plant. But I don't want to put my plant under that kind of stress, so I'm not ever going to do that. I'm just hoping that it will naturally flower as the temperatures get cooler. Soil wise, I have this in about 40% perlite, 60% potting compost. You can add some bark and some charcoal to this mix to make it a bit more airy and well draining. Obviously anything well draining is going to be perfect for this plant because it is an epiphyte, so I really recommend that you get a well draining soil. If that means adding sand or cactus soil into your mix, then absolutely do it. But you have to remember that these like to dry out. Which brings me on to my next point, which is watering. I water this once every 7 to 10 days, depending on how warm the flat has been and how quickly the soil is drying out. And I do shower all of the foliage very thoroughly just to get any bugs off. There are small aerial roots on here which I do like to keep slightly damp when I'm watering. And soil wise, I flush this out completely. You know, I shower it until there's water running out, and I do that a couple of times and then hang it back up. Fertiliser wise, I use Baby Bio. I don't use anything special. This is bog standard houseplant fertiliser that you can get here in the UK. And I make sure to water it thoroughly before giving it fertiliser because I don't want to burn those roots. And and this plant hasn't struggled at all. If anything, it's done really well with this fertiliser. So I'll put the measurements on the screen that I use here, and that'll give you some sort of idea if you're not in the UK as to what fertiliser you can use. Now, I have this plant sat on my wires at the back of my living room. My living room has 2 large southwest windows, but that area of the room doesn't get any direct light whatsoever. It gets bright ambient light. So I personally don't give this any direct light whatsoever. Occasionally I have my grow lights on if it's been a dark day, but it gets ambient light from those, and I will just show you how amazing the shadows are that come on when the grow lights are on, because it turns our whole flat into a jungle with this particular plant. I think if you have an east facing window, this will be okay. So any morning sun that you get, as long as it's not throughout the day or afternoon sun, it should be fine. But bright filtered indirect light is the best light that you can give this plant. Humidity wise, this sits for me in roughly 65 to 75% humidity. Obviously that is unattainable for a lot of people, and we're very lucky to be able to get that type of humidity. But my mum has hers in roughly 40 to 50%, and it doesn't seem to be struggling in any way. It doesn't seem to be crisping or browning. So if you don't have the best humidity in the world, this could be a perfect plant for you in your collection. I wouldn't say to go below 50% humidity if I'm honest, just because you have to think about what conditions this grows in the wild. And temperature wise, I really wouldn't have this outside in any climate, to be honest. They hate any sort of cool draft or wind, and so definitely have this as an indoor house plant. I will just quickly touch on the fact that during the recent heat wave, our flat got up to about 37 degrees, and this plant hasn't struggled whatsoever with those temperatures. It just meant that I had to water a bit more frequently, but yeah, that gives you an idea of how hot these can stand it. The growing pattern of this plant is a bit weird, so it gets these tiny little buds forming on the leaves, and it can be anywhere on the leaves. It can be at the base of the leaves here, or it can be right at the top, and then you get a shoot off, which is what this one is here. I'm not sure if you can see. I'll insert some footage of that here, but they are absolutely incredible. Obviously they have that zigzag fashion of an epiphyllum, but much more striking and beautiful, I think. We do have really good airflow in our flat, so we have 2 fans going on in our living room throughout summer, so although it's high humidity and high heat, there's never stagnant air. And this does actually sit above the doorway to our living room, which isn't an outside doorway, it just comes from our hall, so it does get airflow, and yeah, it just really enjoys that, and I think that's how I've had so much success with this plant. Propagation wise, I've heard a lot of different things about this plant. I've not read anything about people propagating in water, so if you have, please leave that in the comments below, because I'd be really interested to know, and it would be good to share with everyone else. But from what I've read, you need to chop about 15 centimetres from the top of the stem, so that would probably be about here. I'm not sure if you can see. So you probably cut where my wrist is, and you chop that and prop it straight in any medium that you want to grow this in, whether that is leca or orchid bark or any sort of cactus mix, then I think that would be great. But I have also seen that people can just chop the leaves, no, not leaves, I'll insert again on the screen what they're called, but that you can chop these and shove them straight into your medium that you want to plant it in, and that will start growing as well. Obviously I've not tried these, it will be my first time in a couple of weeks when I'm sending a cutting of this to a friend. But yeah, I think these are fairly easy to propagate from what I've read, and if you don't have roots within 5 to 6 days, maybe check that the plant cutting is properly calloused over and it's not starting to rot. Obviously there are aerial roots all over this plant, so you can cut with those, and if you get aerial roots, they're more likely to turn into actual roots to help your plant grow. So that's my experience with this plant. I think it's been really easy to care for, and it's added to my collection so much. It makes me so happy every time I walk through the living room door, because it's the first thing I see, and the fact that it's been easy care has made it even more enjoyable. If you've got any other comments or questions about this plant, if you've grown this plant and you have different experience, please leave that in the comments below, because obviously not everybody's growing experience is the same. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye.